Still loading.
Hello, delegates and friends from around the world. Welcome to this very special session of the Global Women's Congress, which we have opened to the public. My name is Shama Viola, and I am the delegate from the Federation of Damanhur in Italy. I also serve in the Peace Room of the Founding Mothers Movement, which is our executive team. I represent the art and culture sector, and my totem is the elephant. Thank you all for being here. It is truly an inspiration to stand among such a congregation of beautiful souls, each committed to the evolution of humankind and the healing of our earth. Our shared intention is to be of service, and we pursue our vision of planetary partnership and peace through impeccability and commitment, honoring the unique medicine each one brings to this circle. Let's celebrate our union with courage and joy. May our strategies be whispered by inner wisdom, allowing us to reach our goals with ease and excellence. With grateful hearts, we welcome the blessings of light and life upon this space. Amen.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ayola Male, and I'm in the delegates from Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, Ghana. In the Peace Room, I represent the learning and education sector, and my totem is a wolf. I'm also one of the co-counsellors of the Women's Congress. As Shama mentioned, today is a special session of the Global Women's Congress, because normally these sessions are private. In order to attend the Women's Congress, we ask that your group first become a partner of Founding Mothers Movement, and that each group appoint its delegate. Currently, we have about 150 partners around the world and 100 delegates. Founding Mothers Movement launched in 2024 with the mission of creating a female-led meta-unity movement focused on planetary partnership and peace. Our goal is to unify the women of the world and grow a new Global Women's Congress. The original International Women's Congress met for the first time in Paris in 1878. That Congress continued to meet until women in England, the US, and Europe, and the European nations won the right to vote. The original Congress also focused on stopping World War I, and their peace work is legendary. Now we are building a Women's Congress for the 21st century. Building a Women's Congress for the 21st century is vital for achieving global economic prosperity, enhancing policy effectiveness, and ensuring social justice. While women comprise half the global population, they currently hold only 26.5% of parliamentary seats and 22.9% of ministerial positions worldwide. The importance of this structural shift includes driving economic growth, unlocking potential, closing gender gaps, prioritizing social and legislative reforms so that gender-specific issues such as women in power who are consistently champion legislation for healthcare, education, and social welfare. Ending violence, increase female representation, and statistically, that correlates to stronger laws against gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and child marriage. This, for us, is a win. Women still do not have gender equity, and the world still is at war. We intend to change that. Slowly but surely, we're building the new Global Women's Congress. And we're happy that you have joined us for this 19th session. Today, we are honored to present two world-renowned guest speakers, Rivera Rousson and Chief Phil Lane Jr. But first, we want to share a video with you that summarizes what the Founding Mothers Movement has been doing over the last year and a half since we launched. In this video, you will see the Founding Mothers Movement has achieved much in a small amount of time. Yes, we have been very busy.
Values that the feminine brings, the values of peace, of love, of justice, of partnership, of community, of collaboration, of beauty. These are things that the masculine paradigm has left out, and those values are not being represented because the women are not being represented.
You can't leave a crying baby alone. You have to, oh, pick it up, you're so cute. We are hormonally programmed to love it. We think, oh, my child matters. But the love that will save the world cannot just be the love for your child. It has to be the love for all of our children.
By addressing the gender aspects of conflict and integrating feminist perspectives into global agenda, we can create a more equitable and peaceful world.
We're very, very proud of the Founding Mothers Proclamation. That is an extension of the Mother's Day Proclamation, which was actually the fuel to start the first International Congress of Women. We looked at Julia Ward Howe's proclamation and we've updated it. It's called the Founding Mothers Proclamation. It's on our website. Please go look at it. Please go read it.
It was Afghanistan. It was the Taliban. When they were removing all the rights from women, nobody did anything to protect them.
Without gender equality, we are kidding ourselves if we think that we can possibly move into a world of peace, of prosperity, and of sustainability. That divine feminine energy, that divine feminine principle, that energy of creation is critical to the health and the harmony of our planet.
Motherness, it produces empathy. Well, it doesn't just produce empathy, does it? It produces fierceness too. When I think of the teenagers I woke up and got out of bed early in the morning, it wasn't empathy that got them out of bed, it was my fierceness.
This is a revolution in consciousness. There is a waking up. You know, it's why the status quo, if you want to call it, it's why the oligarchs keep pushing against woke. Because we are waking around the world. People are waking. We are woke.
Let's take a moment to remember the time of the womb we came from, honoring our mother, the womb inside all women around the world, the womb inside future generations not yet born.
Through the rise of this feminine power, this rebalancing of energies, a new equilibrium can be achieved.
We can activate peace in the real world. It's not just an utopia, it's not just a vision, it's something that is accessible for us in the here and now, if we are allowing our feminine nature and feminine for woman and man, the feminine that come to balance the masculine and be holding the compassion, courage, creativity that is our birthright.
I'm here to offer a prayer for peace with two words, shalom, which is in Hebrew, the word for peace, and salam, which is the word in Arabic. Shalom. Shalom.
We're told that we just need to get through life and get through the hard things so we can figure out the joyful things. I don't think that's true. I think that life is joyful if we let it be joyful.
We can truly be happy as we allow our love to grow. We engender and plant and grow and water more love.
When we break out of those boxes and we take on our true identity as the founding mothers of this world, and we do it, we don't just call for it.
This is what we are doing here. This is why I'm so grateful to be here, that we are standing for love and who we are capable of being as those who have found our mother.
Why women hold the key, why women hold the key to the paradigm shift. From birth, nature has set women to be able to take care of the world. It's not our own, nature's doing.
Lasting solutions to the critical issues facing us on Earth. To bring them from the great source, bring them through our wombs and our hearts from the great source of life itself.
There's no excuse left. We are facing the worst evils of a U.S. government with none of the pseudo-humanitarian pretenses. If people cannot object to genocide and terroricide now, when can they?
1,000 points of light operating in silos will not, capitalize not, change the world. But those same points of light, once unified, contain the power to finally shift the paradigm.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Founding Mothers movement. We know from neuroscience that we have to pay attention to family because that's when we learn violence.
Women are paid less, women have less opportunity, and women can't even have control of their own bodies and their own environment. The Founding Mothers movement is designed to create a Congress of women who can come together and start to really get their voices to make a difference in the world.
Hi, all you attendees of the first Congress of the Founding Mothers Movement.
Founding Mothers Movement.
Founding Mothers
Founding Mothers. Founding Mothers Movement.
The ultimate goal is to get the Founding Mothers Proclamation law so that women, regardless of where you are, regardless of what government claims to have authority over you, women have rights. Look.
We will do anything to protect our babies, and we will do anything to protect our babies yet to be born.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura George, and I'm the delegate from the Oracle Institute in Independence, Virginia. I serve in the Peace Room representing the justice and governance sector, and my totem is Lady Liberty. I'm also one of the co-counselors of the Women's Congress. The video we just watched provides a good overview of the many people who are working to build the mother of all movements. Already, our coalition is large, and we're still growing. Our mission, planetary partnership and peace. And we believe the key to anchoring this vision is women. Why? Because when women are at the table, whether it's a boardroom table, a school table, a governance table, or the kitchen table, decisions change. Decisions become more compassionate, equitable, and inclusive. Children are protected, communities are protected, and personal freedoms are protected. Yes, right now we need to focus on freedom and democracy. There are many elements to the poly crisis, but right now human rights are being violated at a frightening pace. At the end of the 20th century, the arc of justice was clearly pointing in the right direction. And by that I mean a progressive direction and a world that works for everyone. But since the start of the new millennium, global oligarchs and authoritarians have been taking us in the wrong direction, toward a dystopian vision of globalization that feeds on corporate greed, a permanent serf caste, racism, misogyny, and desecration of our beloved Mother Earth. It is high time for the women of the world to say no, not on our watch, not in our countries, not in our communities, and not in our homes. To counter this dystopian nightmare, we immediately got to work and drafted the Founding Mothers Proclamation mentioned in the video. 7 international female attorneys worked on this policy proposal for global women's rights and an end to war. We passed the proposal at our 3rd session of Congress, and we published it on October 2nd, 2024, which is International Day of Nonviolence. The proclamation has been sent to every head of state and UN ambassador. Our goal is to have a binding, universal declaration of women's rights and a permanent peace treaty among all nation states, so that regardless of where you live in the world, Your rights are protected and war is abolished for all time. Now, the founding mothers hold no delusions about
You froze, Laura.
5. Our first campaign was the weekly worldwide wake up, which is an ongoing campaign. It takes place every Wednesday, and what we're asking you to do is go outside every Wednesday at noon in your time zone and make good noise for 5 minutes. Play an instrument, blow a whistle, bang a pot, or shout at the top of your lungs, "The founding mothers are here to save the world." Now, next weekend on Valentine's Day, we're launching a new campaign. It's called a Global Red Tent Directory, and we're launching this with our partners at Red Tent Global and 1 Billion Rising. Red tents provide a sacred space for women to share and bond. We hope you'll host a monthly red tent in your neighborhood and also join us for the Valentine's Day launch. I'll be putting the link in the chat. We've also started an international Indivisible chapter for Founding Mothers Movement. And we've been participating in the No Kings and Ice Out events in the US, which are now going global. But our main mission is to grow the Women's Congress and provide a needed strategic hub. The reason that most social movements fail is for lack of strategic planning and coordination. Leaderless and leaderful movements may sound well and good, but research shows that successful nonviolent campaigns do not rely on decentralized action alone. Why? Because chaos reigns when clear demands are not set, when leaders get arrested. That's when cohesion falls apart. Instead, successful reform movements incorporate both a vertical and a horizontal axis. They establish a centralized circle that brainstorms campaigns and tactics while also forming a strong decentralized network that exercises autonomy when implementing campaigns. That is the purpose of the Women's Congress. It's a hub that synergizes many partners around the world who can then execute agreed upon campaigns in their region of the world and in their own way. Now, to give you a better idea of how our Congress operates internally, I'm passing the baton to Anadea.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Anadea Judith, and I am the delegate from the She Rises movement. I'm also a member of the Peace Room in the spirituality and religion sector, and my totem is the raven. So I want to tell you more about what it means to become part of the Founding Mothers movement and how the Global Congress operates. So first, there's 3 ways to join Founding Mothers. You can join as an individual world citizen from anywhere around the world. And you can join as a partner group, which means you're part of a group that wants to be part of this coalition. And you can also, as a partner group, send a member of your group as a delegate to our monthly Congress. So second, it's important to remember that FMM, Founding Mothers Movement, is not a nonprofit. It's not really even an organization. It's a coalition of nonprofits, including women's and children's groups, peace and democracy groups, environmental and indigenous groups, and churches and spiritual communities. So that pretty much covers a big gamut, and we want to bring all these groups together to form enough of a block to have an influence. So if you run a nonprofit, you can join the coalition. There's no charge for joining. It's totally free. And once you register your group as a partner, you can then send one of your representatives, and the Congress right now is made of women, so a female representative to Congress who would represent your group and appear at our monthly Congress. As Laura said, the Congress was designed by system scientists as a collaboration hub where many nonprofits can gather once a month to discuss current events, brainstorm solutions, strategize plans, and then implement coordinated campaigns. At the center of the Women's Congress is our Peace Room, the executive team. Our board is called the Peace Room in honor of the futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard, who said, "We need a peace room as sophisticated as the war room." Well, we are building it. That's the idea behind the Peace Room at the core of the Founding Mothers movement. And the women in the Peace Room monitor different but interconnected sectors of society. This was part of Barbara Marx Hubbard's original vision, such as education, media, justice and government, peace building and the environment, my sector, spirituality and religion. We have the arts. We study and analyze trends in each of these sectors and then combine our wisdom. And the idea is that these sectors represent all the facets, all the best facets of human society. So we can show the graphic. There we go. It also represents, the Peace Room does, our responsibility to steward the monthly Women's Congress. At Congress, we receive reports from our operational circles, which are shown in blue in the graphic. And we have a media circle, a tech circle, a campaign circle that plans our campaigns and how do we accomplish our goals, the proclamation, these were the people that got together and wrote our proclamation, and the partner circle, which is inviting and seeking new partners and alliances to join the coalition. So when a partner circle joins the Founding Mothers movement, we ask that your representative attend the partner circle, which is dedicated to welcoming new members and helping partners identify shared passion and project areas so they can expand their networks and coalesce around joint initiatives. So we get to know what you're up to and how we can support you, basically. Currently, we have enough delegates from around the world to now form geographic circles, which are shown in green. These circles are based on your region of the world, so delegates can more easily network and collaborate about national and regional issues. And then we have the women's circles shown in pink that are based on specific focus areas such as peace building, food sustainability, music and art, spirituality, community. These circles support joint projects in your area of interest so that economies and efficiencies of scale are achieved. So with all this, we also have a fractal plan to grow the women's movement when it gets too large for meaningful discussion and deliberation. And we anticipate that the green geographic circles will then become regional congresses themselves. In that event, we think it's wise to maintain a central peace room whose job it will be to ensure coordination is maintained and to provide feedback loops amongst the regional congresses. Now, today we have a proposal to form a new women's circle based on environmentalism. This is a good opportunity for you to see how we pass proposals in Congress. Rather than vote, we seek consent by asking if there are any objections to a proposal. And if there are no objections, then of course it passes. So silence is golden. If there are no objections or questions, the proposal passes. This system was built for efficiency and speed. So let's show you how it's done. I turn this over to Lisa Levinson.
Hello, everyone. As Anadea said, my name is Lisa Levinson, and I'm the delegate from In Defense of Animals. Today, I'd like to present a proposal for a new women's circle, along with Women's Congress delegate Rebecca Allen from Climate Healers. The Earth is facing a convergence of interconnected environmental crises that threaten the natural systems upon which all life depends. All of life's support systems, air, water, and nutrition, are in jeopardy. We call upon the women of the world to affirm all aspects of life on Earth as vital connections for all of humanity. Climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, fossil fuels, deforestation, the industrial complex, and agriculture are destabilizing weather patterns and intensifying droughts, floods, and fires. At the same time, biodiversity is declining at unprecedented rates as habitats are destroyed, ecosystems are polluted, and species are exploited, thereby weakening the ecological foundations that support food production, clean water, and clean air. Land degradation and deforestation further undermine planetary stability by releasing stored carbon, disrupting water cycles, and reducing soil fertility, while freshwater systems are increasingly stressed by overuse and contamination of rivers and aquifers. Oceans face mounting pressures from warming, acidification, fishing, and plastic pollution, threatening marine ecosystems and global food security. Across air, water, soil, the toxic pollution and synthetic chemicals accumulate faster than ecosystems can safely absorb them, creating high risks to the environment and to the health of all beings. These challenges are reinforced by unsustainable food systems and overconsumption that drive land use change, water depletion, and waste, while failing to equitably nourish the global population. Our goal is to educate sustainable land and water practices rooted in reciprocity, respect, and responsibility to future generations. In this moment of extreme ecological crisis, we propose that the Founding Mothers Movement affirm Earth stewardship grounded in care, justice, and responsibility. It is our duty to restore Earth's life support systems and protect the well-being of present and future generations. At this time, I formally propose that the Women's Congress approve the formation of the Environmental Women's Circle. Are there any positive or paramount objections? Please use the raise hand function if you have an objection.
Seeing no objection, nor any questions, because that was a beautifully delivered and well-written proposal, it passes. Thank you so much, Lisa and Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very grateful
And we'll be
to all of
following
you.
up.
Great. Well, thank you. So I'm Diane Blay, and I'm a delegate from the Jane Addams branch of WILF, which is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And I'm also a member of the Peace Room, representing the peace building and relations sector. And my totem is the bee. Today, it is my honor and my great privilege to present our first guest speaker, Rivera Sun. Rivera is an award-winning author and visionary peace activist. For nearly a decade, her Dandelion Insurrection trilogy has sold thousands of copies annually. Rivera is the founding editor of the prize-winning Nonviolence News. Her syndicated articles have been published in hundreds of journals nationwide. She's a frequent speaker at universities, libraries, and schools, and peace and justice organizations. As a trainer and educator, Rivera has facilitated sold-out workshops in writing, peace studies, and nonviolent action. She serves on the board of the Backbone Campaign and on the advisory board of World Beyond War. She also serves as the program coordinator for Pacha Ibine's Campaign Nonviolence. You can learn more about Rivera at riverasun.com. So, Rivera, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you to the Congress for having me with you here today, and for our new audience or participation members who might be watching this through the live stream. I'm glad you've tuned in to hear what this good group is up to. The work that I do revolves around training people and exposing people to the ideas of nonviolent action for social change. And we know that this field is your best bet for success. If you want women's rights, if you want racial justice, if you want environmental justice, if you want democracy, if you want peace, the tools of nonviolent action, things like boycotts, strikes, sit-ins, occupations, blockades, protests, vigils, marches, shutdowns, walkouts, There's actually a list of over 300 different methods of nonviolent action are the way to go. We know that compared to using violence, they're twice as effective. They work in a third of the amount of time, and they have a fraction of the casualty levels of an armed conflict, as many of us tragically know from our experiences around the world. So in using these powerful tools, the most powerful tools humanity has ever come up with, honestly, we need to study them as much as we can and understand what makes them work and what makes them fail, because it's not a magic bullet. Nonviolence doesn't always work, right? So it's to our advantage to learn how to use these tools wisely. One of the things that we're going to look at today is the idea of organizing structure, as Laura said earlier, because nonviolent movements succeed because people participate in them. And not just showing up for a meeting, but actually making changes in their everyday lives, either to stop doing something that's expected, like going to work, going to school, going shopping, or to do something unexpected, like to show up in the streets in demonstrations, or to all speak out about an injustice and refuse to be silent about it anymore, or to set up a roadblock in the middle of the street and refuse to let traffic pass until your demands are met. So in doing this, there's a high level of coordination that's required for this. We've had movements around the world experiment with all sorts of organizational styles, from completely decentralized, meaning nobody's in charge, everybody just does whatever they want, to completely centralized, where even one person is saying, go here, do that, and go on strike now. What we found is in the research is that neither of those extremes is the most successful way to organize your movement. Each one has vulnerabilities. If you're too decentralized, lots of people can't figure out what's going on. Lots of people take action that isn't wise or isn't strategic or isn't well enough coordinated with the large numbers of people to pull it off. On the other hand, very centralized coordinating structures are vulnerable to repression and crackdown and arrests of leaders or assassinations of leaders, as we've also seen in many movements around the world. So one of the things we can think about is what is a happy blend of those two ideas? How do we take the best of both worlds and leave behind the vulnerabilities of each world? Well, one of the ways to think about it is to think about coalition building, right? So to form alliances with like-minded organizations so that if one of your organizations gets targeted and swept up in arrests or lawsuits, then another organization can step to the fore. The other ways to think about it is to have nested structures. So you have local coordination, regional coordination, national coordination, and international coordination, each of which has some degree of autonomy in terms of coming up with tactics and strategies, bringing people together, training them, and deploying them into the struggle. So there's no one single structure that we can say, this is the only one that works, or this is the perfect one that works. But what we can say is that finding a balance between these two ideas will make your movement more resilient. We can look at examples from around the world and how they've coordinated what they've pulled off. Behind me on the wall is an illustration of the women of Liberia's mass action for peace in 2001 to 2003, in which the women who had already suffered through one horrific civil war decided as the second civil war broke out that they would take a stand together for peace. And not just the Christian women, but the Christian and the Muslim women who historically had had many disagreements and many divisions between them. In this organizing effort, there were many different strands of organizers. There was a core coordinating committee, and then there were multiple coordination committees within the different faith groups. So they had many different structures that they used. The women were successful in opposing the war, bringing their grievances to the dictator Charles Taylor, confronting the dictator, compelling the one female parliament member who had speaking power at the time to raise their issues and to force the rebel faction and Charles Taylor to hold peace negotiations. They then went to the peace negotiations, sat down in front of the doors, and refused to let the men come out until they came out with a peace deal. This peace deal had the dictator stepping out of power. Democratic elections were held, and they elected their first female leader of Liberia. And the war stopped as well. So it's an extraordinary story and something to pay attention to, but they almost failed completely when the peace talks happened and the men were just spinning their wheels. The dozens of women, close to, I'm not sure quite how many there were, had to make a decision right there on the spot. And it was a decision that would affect the lives of millions of people. They came together in a group and they decided they would sit in front of those doors. They didn't wait for their national leadership. They didn't try to call anyone. They didn't, run it through a steering committee. They didn't wait for a total consensus vote of everybody who was involved in the entire movement. They had to make a decision there. How did they know to make the right decision? Right? How did they know strategically? This is because they had a sense of strategy. They had a sense of their conflict, and they had enough people who knew what they were doing in that moment that they could make that decision in a smart way. Another movement we should talk about just briefly is Serbia's Otpor movement. This was a student-led movement that rose up against the dictator Milosevic in late 1999, 2000, and 2001. This movement was a classic leaderless movement, and it wasn't technically leaderless, but what they did is they had a training program where everybody who came into Otpor got trained right away in what nonviolent movements are and how they work. Because their organizing principle was when everyone knows strategy, you start to get strategic behavior, right? So if they wanted their people in the streets in this town and that town to hold strategic actions, to know when to push and when to pull back, then everyone needed to know strategy for nonviolent movements. They needed to know what the goals of Otpor were. So they had a central committee that set goals to begin with. And they needed to have an idea of what the grand strategy was. What are we trying to do and how are we going to generally get there? Then they could improvise on their own in their local movements. So they thought of it like instilling DNA, right? Like a genetic code for their movement into everyone's consciousness so that if they took action in the streets, they knew how and why they were doing it. We've also seen movements like South Korea's Candlelight Revolution in 2016, which had 5,000 civil society groups and organizations in a central steering committee that organized mass demonstrations month after month and week after week until they compelled their leader to step down from power. So these three stories illustrate some of the ways that we can think about organizing our movements and why it's smart to think about them. We know that nonviolent movements need participation to succeed, and it needs to be somewhat proportional to the scale of the changes that you're trying to achieve. So in a local community in your city, this may be a smaller amount of people. In a large nation, like the size of the US, you're going to need, the number they look at is if anyone organizes 3.5% of the population in sustained, disruptive, nonviolent actions. So not just marches and protests, but things like strikes or boycotts or citywide shutdowns over a period of time. If you've organized 3.5% of your populace into that, then they've always won their struggle. Almost always. We have one case where that wasn't the case. But generally speaking, in the US, that's for us like 11 million adults. It's a lot of people, but it's not unthinkable. In some ways, we may have close to that number already engaged in actions across the US. And what's needed is a deep national call to action. So in the dandelion insurrection, I think of this as murmurations and flocks of birds. And if you're unfamiliar with that, I'm going to just show a short little video to explain it. This is when birds fly in a flock together. They don't have a leader. Let's pull that sound down. They don't have a single leader, but they aren't completely unorganized. They have 4 principles that guide this ever-moving, ever-changing direction, coordinated flight behavior. First, they fly forward because birds don't fly backwards. They stay relatively equidistant. Whoever is in the front of the flock is the leader. They are making the decisions. But when that flock turns, so if your leader turns to the left, somebody else is on their left, and that person becomes the leader. And they also don't leave their wingmates out on a limb. So if some of their fellow birds fly off from the flock, others go with them, or that bird returns to the flock, which you can see in some of the edges of this video. These are guiding principles. These are how each bird knows to make a good decision in the moment. And as you can sometimes see, this flock is actually driving a hawk away from the nests of its young by this coordinated action. A murmuration is not just for fun, although we do think they might train in them. It is designed to unify their collective power, which arguably is smaller than the hawk's violent might, to protect their nests together. So when I think of murmurations as a realistic idea of how we show up in the world today, there are many movements, many campaigns, many actions. And as people who care, we're always showing up here or there or there or there. And how do we make sense of it all? One of the ways we do this is by having guiding principles that determine how, where, and when we show up. And I think that each of us as individuals have them, but also as movements like the Congress, we have them as well, in terms of how you choose when to launch a campaign, like your Red Tent campaign or the other beautiful one that you mentioned earlier. What makes it strategic? What makes it participatory? And what makes it compelling for people to join it? I'm going to stop there because I'm sure there are lots of questions. But it's really beautiful to see some of the ways that you in the Congress are thinking about how you organize. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So now we want to open the floor to questions for Rivera. So it can be a sharing time on anything you want to proceed with nonviolent resistance also. But are there any questions? Thank you so much, Rivera. Interesting presentation. I see Eshna has her hand raised. Go ahead, Eshna.
Rivera, that was a fantastic presentation. And I'm wondering if you know about how they've termed what happened in Minneapolis the mosaic, because what happened there was leaderless. Would you kind of think that was sort of like a form of murmuration? What happened in Minneapolis, because they had lots of different kinds of things and spontaneously happening all over the city.
Yeah, that's a great concept of the mosaic. I like that a lot. I think how I would look at Minneapolis and how they're organizing is that they are first of all, they're leaderful, and they have several networks of closely allied organizations and coalitions that are working together, some of whom have very long-standing organizing relationships in Minneapolis. So they didn't just erupt out of whole cloth, although there are certainly some people, I'm sure, who just jumped into action, many people. But for example, the immigrant rights networks in Minneapolis have been doing Know Your Rights training, and now are training 2,000 people a week in constitutional observing. right? The faith groups who have been doing mutual aid and relief work already have mechanisms for doing that, and they have scaled that up to provide relief to impacted immigrant families. This goes on and on for every tactic that you see. So I would think that I would term that leader full, and I would look to see some of the coalitions behind the scenes of what looks like on the surface like a mass eruption is actually highly coordinated streams, maybe many strands with shared goals, right? Keep people safe, ice out, watch, pay attention. There might be a couple others in there too.
Well, it turns out that there were lots of things that happened that did not have leadership, and that's why they were terming it a mosaic, a spontaneous mosaic. But it looks like there's a combination of the leaderful things, and then I guess once the level of energy or something happened where people, different places all over, were having actions spontaneously.
I think the other thing you can look for behind the scene is group coordination, right? So people are working together to pull off those actions, but they don't all necessarily know each other yet, nor are they trying to get in the way of each other. But nonviolence is not for every single person, I have to say, but for most of the people working in Minneapolis right now, that it's a shared value. We're going to act in this way, which is very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have two more hands raised, Anadea and then Edwina. Anadea, go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, beautiful presentation, and I just loved your books. I have a hard question. I've been deeply aggrieved by watching the horrible genocide, violent crackdown against protesters in Iran. And what would you say to the people in that country?
Yeah, they are in a really tough, painful, horrific moment of extreme repression. This is not uh, entirely unusual in the course of nonviolent resistance, but it is always painful and disconcerting and often demoralizing. I think what movements around the world have looked to do in these instances, and Bangladesh's uprising might be another place to look because they did have a crackdown on their movement that was over 2,000 people were killed. One of the things that they did in Bangladesh is they regrouped through the expression of mourning and care. So they changed the nature of their struggle, and they anchored it in the grief over what had happened. And that turned out to be a very successful strategy in Bangladesh, allowing them to regroup, disarming some of the ways that escalating skirmishes in the streets had been legitimizing the Bangladesh government's position on their crackdown, and bringing people's attention back to the scale of loss. In Iran, I think they're, I don't know their struggle well enough to give great strategic advice. What I'm seeing is that they're going to need to take a beat, a breather, to mourn, to re-strategize, and to think very deeply and carefully about what their next move is, given what's unfolding. But yeah, my heart has been really tugged by what they're experiencing and the devastation of that.
Yeah, I sure want them to be successful. Thank you.
Okay, Edwina? I don't know if I said it right, but
Edwina.
Go ahead.
It's Edwina. Hi. Two things. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Two things. First I wanted to say thank you. I'm very late. I traveled and missed an hour, so I'm sorry about that. But what I saw of the presentation was wonderful. I've been absolutely so interested in starlings lately. It's funny that this came up because I am fascinated by the starlings. My comment about that is I also think when there are these little heart-centered movements that are sort of somehow led by all sorts of smaller influences, it's much harder for anything large on the opposition to cut off the head, to find a leader to target and break the group. So I think that's such an interesting kind of approach. And there's a Martha Beck, fabulous Martha Beck. I'm going to try to find it and put it in the chat. It's The Pyramid and the Pool. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this, but it is an incredible statement, commentary on our structure, what we keep repeating, and what the answer might be for all of us. That is a whole different way of thinking. And it's more of like this sort of a approach. And it's really amazing. And lastly, I just wanted to say, for those of you that don't know me, I run an organization called Spiritual Playdate, and we have a ton of resources for teachers and parents and grandparents to use with kids around nonviolence, around what spiritual protest is, around peace, a lot of activities. And I'm talking like 6 through 11 kids, which is a big gap that we have in the peace and nonviolence conversation. And most people are sort of intimidated to approach that with kids, but it's really the best place to start with it. So I'll throw that link in case anyone wants to go there. Tons of free resources, and please feel free to contact me. But thank you, Rivera. That was really wonderful.
Thank you, Edwina. Thanks for that image of the pyramid and the pool. I look forward to checking that out.
Okay, so I think these are going to be now I see 3 hands raised. Okay, okay, I think it's just 2, Stephanie and then Rebecca, and then we can go on. Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
Okay, I so appreciate Rivera, you being here. My ears perk up when somebody says we actually need strategy and that makes things work out better. I'm really curious. We really, in our work planning, focus on learning and challenging mental models. You know, Gregory Bateson called this triple loop learning. And to me, that's why most things fail, whether or not it's an organization strategy or whatever, is they're not thinking about what assumptions were we
And I want
making.
to talk to you for a few minutes about what's happening in our society right
So anyway, I was just curious how you thought about learning. I'm going to be reading your books, but I'm curious to know the role of learning and what you're talking about in terms of being strategic and organizing.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Well, what we see in nonviolent movements is that when we train mass numbers of people and knowing how nonviolent movements work, our movements are more determined, more persistent, better able to withstand repression, and people are more clear about what we're doing and why. And the logic of nonviolent struggle is not super complicated. People get it. They're like, I'm going to refuse to do what you want me to do until you do what I want you to do. Right? We can get deeper and nuanced. We can go into the spiritual depths of all this, but fundamentally, at the end of the day, it's a struggle over leveraging our collective power for collective demands. So we know that movements that train people in large numbers beforehand often see success, right? Because as we were just saying, there has never been a movement headed towards success that wasn't met with some form of repression, often violent. And you need discipline to weather that. Movements also go through periods of lulls and setbacks and times when you think you'll never succeed. And you need a clear vision of your strategy and how you're getting there to weather those lulls. So, in Chile, when they wanted to oust their dictator, Pinochet, they weren't allowed to gather like we're gathering today. They couldn't have over a few people together in one space without getting arrested and sent to be tortured by the police. So they had an each one teach one strategy. You would meet with your friend, they would teach you about how we're going to wage struggle. Then you and your friend would go meet with one other friend. Then those friends would go meet with another one exponentially. They trained thousands of people this way. In the Philippines, when they wanted to get rid of the dictator Ferdinand Marcos, the nuns at the Catholic Church did trainings in nonviolent struggle with people long before they saw actions in the street. Yeah.
We're moving in that direction. So thanks for that example. If you have a book or something I could read more about learn one, go to the next person, that's what we're launching. So if there's a source for reading about that, I'd be grateful.
I will have to look for that.
If it's not
Yeah,
handy,
let me
not a
let me think about
problem,
where
just
that is.
curious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
Okay, Rebecca.
Thank you. What a fascinating talk, inspiring. I love your analysis. And my question is, have you read about experiences of where food has been a factor? For instance, I've been hearing lately that you control people if you control their food. And I've been thinking about the other way around. If we control the food that they want us to, has that been a factor? Have you seen very many examples of that?
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, I mean, famously, Gandhi's Salt March was about salt. And what's really great to know about this and to wrap our minds around is in 1930 India, salt was like refrigerators, right? They didn't have refrigerators. It's how you preserve food. So this was a basic necessity for everyone. And the British had a monopoly on it. So everybody, every single week, had to pay the British to get a fundamental thing that their country was producing at its salt works on their plenteous and large coasts. So, the Indians called the tax laws the odious tax laws. It was a common grievance among the people that they had to go pay for this salt and pay it to the British, no less. The British were making a ton of money off of this too, as you might imagine. They had a population about the size of 320 million. That's like our size back then. So when they told the Indian people that they were going to march to the sea and then they were going to start making their own salt in defiance of the salt laws, they engaged in an act of mass civil disobedience for a fundamental food necessity. This set off a cascade of things that happened. Of course, the British tried to crack down and stop them, right? Stop them from making salt, from selling salt, from having protests and marches in support of them making salt. They tried to impose curfews to keep people out of the street. Every time they imposed a new law having to do with the salt campaign, the word came from the coordinating committees, because it wasn't just Gandhi, defy it. Break this law. Break this law. Break this law. At the end of the salt campaign, you know what? They had whole negotiations and they didn't even win the right to make salt. It was kind of crazy. But what they had won was the willingness of hundreds of millions of Indian people to defy British rule. And that was really the beginning of the end for the British Empire in India. So I could go on and on. There are actually many, many stories. And I do say that I got my start in nonviolent action here on my family's organic potato farm, picking potatoes and rebuilding the local food economy as a constructive program, the ways we build out the solution, even as we're resisting the problems. So thank you. And thank you for your good work.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I had said we wouldn't take any more questions, but just real quick, Patricia, if you want to ask something, and then we have to move on.
Okay. One of the reasons I really, really love the Dandelion Insurrection series is because it pointed out a problem that we've talked a lot about at Founding Mothers, and that is the stumbling block that is left if you win a movement, the vacuum that's left, the lack of coordination for future action, politically, whatever. Could you spend a minute or two talking about that?
Yeah, one of the common pitfalls we've seen in struggles around the world is that it's funny. First of all, let me back up. Nonviolent struggle is really powerful. We found that it is really good at kicking dictators out of power and really good at governmental regime change. Many of those movements have not, some of those movements have not fully succeeded because they didn't have a plan for what they wanted to see happen when the dictator left, right? So a power vacuum opened. And one of the fatal flaws has been particularly military factions have come in and they have said, we'll establish law and order, trust us. And they reestablish a military dictatorship on the heels of the previous dictatorship. This has sometimes catalyzed armed factions rising up against them, this sending the country into civil war. In the case of Sudan, which this happened to them in 2019. Also famously in 2011, this happened to the Egyptian revolution against Mubarak. Not the civil war part, but the military faction taking power. So having a plan for what you want to see happen when you kick a bad actor out of power is really vital for the short and long-term success of a movement. And there is a secondary challenge of, even if you are successful in all of that, keeping people mobilized, keeping them engaged. I think in a functional democracy, we want to be having conversations about what does democracy really look like? How do we really practice it every single day? So in the US, for example, we don't just stop this rising tide of authoritarianism and go back to the dysfunctional corporate capitalist system of oligarchy that we had before, but rather we have an engaged citizenry. We don't go asleep at the wheel again. So that's a tall order, and I think we do need to be talking about it more in the United States if we want to successfully come out of the nightmare that we're in.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. But anyway, thank you so much, Rivera. Great answers. And our campaigns, we have a campaign circle and we meet on the third Thursday at 1 o'clock, and we will definitely be implementing ideas that you have. So our next meeting is February 19th. Just thought I'd mention. So anyway, okay, I'm going to turn it over to Eshna.
Hello, everybody, all my relations. My name is Ejna Fleury, and I'm a delegate from Divine Mother's Love. And I serve in the Peace Room. I represent the environmental sector, and my totem is the turtle. And right now, it's my profound honor to introduce Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. of the Yongtauan, Dakota, and Chickasaw Nation. This year marks 59 years of service, beginning in 1967, in which Chief Phil Lane has devoted his life to uplifting Indigenous peoples and strengthening the well-being of our entire human family. Born in 1944 at the Haskell Indian Boarding School, he has journeyed across the Americas and Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, working with Indigenous communities, elders, women leaders, youths, governments, and international institutions to advance education, healing, and culturally grounded development. He's the co-founder of the Four Worlds International Institute, which for more than 4 decades has helped pioneer holistic approaches to human and community development, rooted in culture, guided by spirit, and committed to justice, compassion, and sustainability. He's also served 16 years as an associate professor of education in Canada, mentoring generations of leaders. Phil Lane's contributions have been recognized internationally, and he was the first Indigenous representative of the WinStar Award, presented by John Denver and the WinStar Foundation. He received the Swiss Foundation's Year 2000 Award for Freedom and Human Rights and the Ally Award for his leadership in resolving Canada's residential school crisis. And most recently, the Stellar Award for Service to Humanity, presented at the Stairways to the Stars global event in Las Vegas. Throughout his life, his guiding principle has remained constant, that when women are fully empowered, families flourish, communities heal, and the future becomes possible. Please join me in welcoming a lifelong service of humanity, Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr.
Well, thank you so much, my very, very beloved sister Ijna. I want to thank Sister Anonia. I hope I get it right. I think that what you said about bringing all these groups together is vision of Black Elk the sacred hoop of many hoops. It's going to take all of us to fulfill the sacred prophecies which are being fulfilled as we speak. Sister Rivera, thank you so much for the brilliant analysis you've done. Very appreciated, very appreciated. What I'd like to do is I put together 7 slides, and I would like very much if you'd put up slide 1 so we can kind of begin. I believe this is key. Women and men have always been and will always be equal in the sight of our Creator. No man can bestow equality to a woman. Women have always been equal in the sight of our Creator. They have been from the very beginning of time. And I want to introduce a concept here, which may be something that may be challenging, but I really, from our elders, believe it. Our soul, the soul that transcends this world of time and space, has no gender, has no class, has no ethnicity, has no race, which makes every prejudice whatsoever completely unacceptable. Women have always been equal in the sight of our Creator, and anybody who thinks that that is not true simply doesn't understand history. In history, the only reason in some societies that men have been, let's say, dominant to women is because just simply physical strength and those masculine qualities of cruelty and ego. That is not the reality of this world of time and space, understood from the spiritual understanding. Next slide, please. The denial of the equality of women and men and women perpetuates injustice, violence, and social instability. When we understand that the eagle of humanity has 2 wings, one is man and one is woman, and both wings of that eagle must have equal power and respect, and that's not honored, then we have injustice, violence, and social instability. But it's also, you can take it down, it's also important to understand that at the center, the heart of that eagle is oneness. That oneness is who we are. We men need to gain and learn those spiritual qualities which we also have within us, which I guess some cultures term some qualities feminine, but the same culture will call ones that one culture calls feminine, they'll call them masculine. It doesn't make any difference. We have access to the full range of those spiritual qualities that Creator's given us. And so what I'm saying here is that we're unbalanced. Men have brought masculine qualities, put it that way. The masculine qualities we possess as human beings has brought us to a point of almost complete destroying Mother Earth. And that's why I so like the comment about how we have to care for and especially teach our children kindness to animals. Next slide, please. No nation can advance unless the women of that nation advance. That's a fact, a reality that we need to awaken to, especially men who have gotten caught up in this idea that our nature is simply to be adversarial. And these scholars that are currently dominating thinking today in the world have done an incredible job of looking back at the last 500 years. In the last 500 years, there's just been one war after another war after another war after another war after another war. But we have to understand as well, there's always been societies who have been golden society, like Siem Reap. There's so many that emerge in the world because on a regional basis. And there's not one of those societies, including our indigenous people who have matriarchal societies, who achieved, you might say, a golden civilization without the full participation of women and the respect of women. That's a fact. Now we are on a planetary basis going through this incredible transformation in which women have the key role to play. The feminine qualities have a key role to play. Next slide, please. Until the equality of men and women is established and realized, the highest social achievement and development of humankind is not possible. Next slide. Any attempt to build a peaceful world without the full participation of women is doomed to failure. When we look at the compositions of the United Nations delegates or any other kind of major planetary decision-making body, we do not find the equality of women and men. It's always dominated by men, usually, except, like, for instance, here, where you're bringing together, which, by the way, I really support this, you're bringing together representatives of all women's movements, because it's that unity that's going to cause the wake-up call for all humanity to come together and unify. It's the biggest challenge we have in our indigenous communities. It's the lateral violence that occurs when we have been, you might say, seen as second-class citizens, which we turn to hurt on each other. That can be indigenous people, it can be women, it can be anybody who's gone through challenges like this. And that has to stop. We have to have unity between us, because without unity, we'll continue in the same cycle we're in now. Next slide, please. Again, the same theme. No society can advance unless women are fully integrated into every sphere of human activity, every sphere of human activity, every sphere, every sphere. Next, please. Thank you, Laura, for doing this. Now, this one, I really believe, and I practice it, in our family. The education of women is of greater importance than men. For women are the first educators of the child. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, it's the role of women. You can take it down. I'm not saying it's the role of women to be home in the kitchen. I'm not saying that. But there's no way around it. The first educator of the child is the mother, from the very womb of the mom. In our indigenous societies, once we knew a woman was going to give was going to birth a child, that woman was surrounded with absolute peace. She was taught to only touch soft things, so but go to the child, to listen to the birds, because we knew a sacred being was coming, and we knew womankind, representatives of Mother Earth or herself, were the first educators. Therefore, it's my perspective, if you have a son and a daughter, and you only have enough money to educate one or the other, you will educate the daughter, if we want to really, truly change your society. Because women are the first educator of the child. And also, at the same time, is the responsibility of women to raise children who don't buy into the system of war and violence and conflict. Next slide. Maybe the last one. I'm thinking maybe I have one more left or two. Do we have one more left?
Oh, no. Actually, that was the last one.
Okay. So I guess my experience has been is that without question, womankind is ascending, just like our indigenous people are ascending. And I want to say this, I really understand as an indigenous person the last 500 years that the indigenous people have suffered incredible challenges across the Americas, going from a little over 100 million indigenous people to the early 1700s down to about 15 or 20 million. The greatest Holocaust that's ever happened in the entire world happened right here in the Americas. Now, it's taken me almost 81 winters to come to this understanding, but I do not believe our beloved Creator would punish us for being indigenous people and for following those sacred teachings that we understood them. I do not believe our beloved Creator would punish women, the very foundation of life. I mean, really, my dad used to say, you men don't think you're so important. Women, without women, there'd be no life. And not only that, they need you one night. Not the other way that he was making a point. Not that men should not be equally involved in the raising of children, but he said they do that for the whole thing after that. They birth humanity. So I really want to encourage the founding women's movement. I believe what you're doing, pulling women's together, different movements together, is incredible. And that the day has come when this will happen. I want to at the same time, somebody mentioned Iran, and back in 1852, there was a woman named Tahirih, and at a gathering they had, I think it was about 1848, in a big gathering, she tore off her veil. Some men were so shocked, they ran away. I even heard some even slit their throat. That this was such a completely different, how do I say it? They just couldn't believe it. So they eventually threatened her either to give up her faith in the belief that women were equal to men or she'd die. And when they came to kill her, she says, "Here, strangle me with," and she gave her own scarf to be strangled. And then she made this statement, which I really love. "You can kill me as soon as you like, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women." 1852. And they strangled her.
Thank you, Brother
And
Phil. Thank you.
so I'll just leave that like that. And I hope, Sister, I kept it with my time limit.
I think you did great. You did great.
And by the way, my wife, if you want to see that strength, grew up in a matriarchal society, and I still live in one. And thank goodness I do. Because I'll tell you, there's nothing like understanding these two wings and then having that oneness and unity. Well,
thank you for bringing that quality of equality, that quality that here in this meeting, this gathering, and that last statement you made just brought tears to my eyes. So thank you. And we'd like to take comments or questions for Brother Phil right now. And I personally, I have this question, my brother, is, and actually it's a question for all of us. Yes. How we start this true equality, and maybe even Rivera could speak to this as well as you, is this has to happen, I think, in multiple levels all over the world. How we really start this equality so that men somehow feel safe to and women, how do we start this, bringing this equality forward right now, step by step?
Well, I believe that when Tahari ripped off her veil, and then with great love and knowing that what she'd done was at oneness with the Creator's will, when she so happily went to her final day, final end with that thing around her neck. I believe we're advancing now. I think that we're soon to see, which is very sad because of all the suffering that'll go on, but that we're seeing the results of a male-dominated world, and it's almost destroyed. I mean, we destroyed the environment. We're on the verge of war. And I would say this is happening. And I think that we have to have and know that this new planetary civilization is unfolding, as I've said, cannot manifest itself, which all our native prophecies talk about, cannot manifest itself until there is equality. And it's happening. It's happening as we speak. It's a process, not an event. But I'll just like we can look at where when I was born back in 1944 and look at the world today. It's taken such a short time to get here. I said, my gosh, I look in the mirror and say, how in the world this happened? I mean, it is so quickly. And I know that the well, you know, like Crowfoot said, life's like the breath of a buffalo on a cold day, or a firefly on a warm summer night, or the shadows vanishing before the setting sun. That's life, and it's gone that quickly. And when you come to the end of your life, you have to face into what you've created, and those who have brought the world have a lot to face into. So I just say we have to have a great faith and know it will be that because it's always been. This is against the spiritual law of the Creator. We were created equal from the very, very beginning of the time. Very beginning. We've never been unequal on the side of the Creator, and that
Thank you.
will be learned.
Thank you. So, Andre, we have our Andre here with a question or a comment.
Great, Andre. How you doing?
Oh, namaste. Hello.
Namaste to you.
Thank you. Hello, Laura and Diane. Hello, Rivera. I loved your presentation.
Yes.
And absolutely great peace building. Hello, Chief Lane and everyone. My name is Andre Sheldon. I'm a peace activist and I post for FMM Facebook daily. Two quick questions briefly.
Yes.
I'm a supporter of women leading a peace movement, a global movement of nonviolence.
Yes.
And I'm a strategist who developed the steps on how to begin the movement, and a supporter of FMM because of their goal to stop war and create gender equality.
Absolutely.
And the two of the most difficult tasks ever, but most urgent. And so because we are in an emergency situation and war is derailing all the good work, I believe the only answer is women rising up first and uniting as the peacemakers, then invite the men. Women must take the world stage to unite the people everywhere, as Gandhi and King and Rivera would do. The opportunities here right now because of the ongoing wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so women promoting nonviolence could unite all the movements, peace, climate, youth, labor, indigenous, all religions, the collective power. So I'm a man who believes if women do not rise up because of the emergency, there will be no change. As Chief Lane, you said, the men are destroying the earth and our societies. So women have an advantage. Do we wait until the disaster hits? And second question, if the emergency war was imminent, but we're working on our individual plans right now, but war is imminent and our families are in jeopardy, and women had the opportunity to lead the way, be the ones to make the decision, would you be ready? Do you have an emergency plan? Thank you very much. Peace.
Yes, I would say, first of all, I agree with 100% what you're saying. So we're completely at oneness at this. I believe that women have powers that men don't even understand yet. Anytime a people have been oppressed, and especially we see the oppression and still the incredible oppression of women going on in the world. I mean, this idea that somehow women were made of the rib of a man and all this kind of crazy stuff. And somehow they're to serve men and all this insanity. And not that I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's holy books, but it just that in itself is just insane. The fact is that women know men better than men know themselves. When you go, it's just like indigenous people know the oppressor. So I'm sure indigenous women know more about indigenous men because we've gotten caught up in the same process. Even though we had societies, by the way, in our Dakota societies, there was 2 women selected in every camp. If a man misbehaved, they had the right to beat them up in public if they violated women. My great grandfather, Tipi Sapa, Hihawa Chasha, he killed 4 men in his life from a vision. 2 of them, one, and this is an exact recorded story. He warned his son-in-law 3 times not to abuse his daughter, not to beat her up. The 4th time he came to in his lodge, and here she was, beaten up again. He didn't say a word. He reached over and got a shotgun. He rode over to his son-in-law's teepee. He walked in and said, "Son-in-law, I've warned you 3 times not to abuse my daughter, and now I'm going to kill you." And kabam, boom, blew him away. Now, we can't do that today, but that's how strongly we felt about respecting women. He also killed another brother-in-law the same way. And afterwards, by our tradition, he had to go outside the camp unarmed all night. And if any of his relatives felt he had done this injustice, they had the right to kill him. But nobody came to kill him. Because we realized that once we began doing this, it would destroy the people. And our people have done that. Look at what's happening to indigenous women, the missing and murdered indigenous women. 75% of our indigenous women report being sexually abused. 75%. This is sick. So it's like the men get abused, and then it's like the man gets abused, he comes and abuses his wife. The wife then abuses the children. The children kick the dog, and the dog chases the cat. I mean, and I say, I believe it's happening, by the way. What you're saying, you asked the question, it's happening. Women are organizing. I mean, it's just like I've seen just the emergence of the divine women's movement and how it's connected to this movement. I think, though, the core in what they're doing here is the foundation to bring all these movements together.
Well, thank you. Yes, I think that's the key is uniting, but with nonviolence as the lead. My proposal is make nonviolence the goal.
Yeah.
And I want, but there's the decentralized and the centralized question. Can I ask Rivera, what do you think? Now women have the advantage, the opportunities right here. What can we do?
Well, I think we're going to find that in times of emergency, with the sheer numbers of people we're talking about, 7.5 billion people, whatever we're up to now, we're going to see it all. We're going to see the whole gamut. Some people are going to get very organized and centralized. Some people are going to be very disorganized and decentralized. The sheer numbers of this, I mean, look, we were just talking about Minneapolis. Minneapolis is, compared to the global population, tiny. They even don't know all the people who are moving into action, their friends, their neighbors, the people who live in their city. The volume of what we're talking about in this global transformation defies our ability to comprehend it or control it. I think the best way I think about it for myself is to be part of an ecosystem of change, to know Am I a pine tree? Am I an oak tree? Am I mycelium? Am I the squirrel eating the maple nuts and spreading their seeds around? What is my role to do? And what is my organization's role to do? And how can I do it so resiliently that our ecosystem of this beautiful, peaceful, just, equal world that we want with a healthy environment is unstoppable, right? Nobody can get in front of the wave of this revolution. As Chief Phil was saying, he has witnessed in his lifetime this global revolution of women's rights, of LGBTQ rights, of Black and Brown and Indigenous rights. The people of the world since 1940, 1950 have risen up in waves. Disability rights, to say no more second-class citizens, no more. We refuse all of this. All of our identities say this is a bogus way of living. What we're seeing now in the 2000s onward is a counter-revolution to those waves. And our task is not to blink. It is to hold steady, is to keep pushing forward and to see this through to the world that's coming. What we're seeing here is not, they are small compared to us. They are petty compared to us. They are the last hurrahs of a 500 years of abuse, as Chief Phil was saying. And the strands of this history is very, very, very clear, right? Our job is to push through. Yes. And as women know, we are very good at breathing and pushing. It's how the world comes into being.
If I may just make one last comment, what Gandhi and King, they in the beginning of their movement, they asked the people to and all their constituents to commit to nonviolence and practice it, and that's what Pache Bene is doing beautifully. The Meta Center for Nonviolence, all the nonviolent groups around the world are doing it already. Women are rising already. Bring the two together right now in a global movement. They'll see it. They'll see the power. The people want something to happen now because all the leaders are saying the environment's and the reports are the environment's going south. And the wars, Abby Martin said the wars are killing the environment. We have to act now as a collective group. That's my last statement. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief and Rivera. And see, this is us. This is us. We're coming forward in nonviolence, compassion, and love, and the brilliance. When you're in love, you get inspired. And this inspiration inflames, it lights the light in other people's hearts. And the brilliance and the ideas, the inspirations come. So, Shoshana, do you have just about like 10 seconds? I see your hand raised.
Speak. Hi. I just popped up. I had to mute. This is such an amazing gathering. I am so grateful to be here. And I think we all have our different perspective, like the jewels that we are, the light of our souls shines through in different aspects and facets. And I've been just thinking a lot about so much, as I'm sure so many of us have. But I've been writing about, I'm writing a little book called The Synchronicity Zone. And it's this kind of continuum between matter and particle. So there's a consciousness, there's like an inner physics, I call it DEVIC, the Davic physics. I thought I'd be unrelatable here, but everybody's sharing about their totem and it's so wonderful. So I catch songs like right from the wind, like whole, it feels like sometimes. And what I've tuned into times when I'm very aware, it's like everything has a sound, like a blade of grass has a pitch, an apple on a tree. And I've seen this in dreams, like this symphonic, golden toroidal, celebratory, beautiful Divine Mother's rebirth as this tapestry of song. And all of us are holding a note in this song, which has to do with our divine purpose. And so there's some kind of activism of spiritual ecology and divine purpose ecology. We're all kind of doing the inner work of the consciousness, the coherence, the way that we can, through our own forgiveness, do the inner alchemy. So it's not like, because it's so easy to get drawn into the polarity and all the charges, where we can be lighthouses of our own souls and of those higher stars of truth, virtue, things that we're bringing down. So it's like this ecological ecosystem balance of doing our inner work and outer work, and just to keep the alchemy. But I just had this beautiful dream how those of us that are, stewards of earth, it's like Mother Gaia is calling us to our breast. And it's like this beautiful, it's almost like a toroid or like a galaxy giving birth to itself. So it's like this whole thing that I'm coming into that I haven't read anywhere. And I'm sure it's not original, but is there anything, and I love what you shared, Tiefling. Is there anything in the native cosmology that speaks to this song of the mother and all of the parts that we are when we're expressing in our essence and our highest ocean of coherence? And I'm sorry if that's unrelatable.
No, now all that you're expressing, I can't say word for word, but one thing that I think is so important, even the way we reference the world around us, Mother Earth, who is alive. She's alive. She's giving birth all the time to us. Womankind is her representative. And all you see, that expression that you're making, the beautiful expressions, that's soft, beautiful. We also as men have this, but we've lost it. We need to be educated. We're ignorant about a whole dimension of who we are as human beings. And that is that dimension of us that we're here to learn about in this world, into this world of duality. We're learning from each other. But it's like Tahare said, you can kill me whenever you wish, but you will not stop the emancipation of women. It's not going to happen. And all these beautiful expressions that are made are going to continue, and it's enhancing our human family. Just what you shared today, we have to be able to have that part. We have to have that, and we'll have it. You have it.
We do.
It's
It's
beautiful.
here.
It's beautiful. We need
It's
this.
here.
So I just encourage every human being to be who they are, to express that beautiful. We don't have to go around in suits and ties and all this crap. Excuse me. By the way, my brother with a bow tie, I love it. But I'm talking about this whole, it's just insanity. And men are dying about 5 years younger than women because of this foolishness that we're doing. I'd like to have that balance myself. I don't know about you all. And not only that, we're not dying that good either. And just to think,
this is so beautiful. This spirit is here. Whoa,
yes,
look at this.
it's
It is
here.
here. It's here. And so, but we need to bring this to a close.
Yes.
And the Congress is alive. And
Yes.
all of our circles are alive. Come to the different circles. What did White Buffalo Calf Woman do when she came? She brought all kinds of ceremonies. So I feel like that's weight showing. All of us. The inspiration of our hearts, whether it's song or poem or a dance or whatever that is, there are lots of ceremonies in this, so there's lots of paths. And so, Karuna, please, if you could bring this wonderful Congress to a close, and we'll see all of you, and bring your friends next month, and we'll see you in the circles.
Wow, really? This will never close, will only open. So open your hearts, dear ones, and as Rivera, as Chief Phil, as all of you have contributed by showing up. These forests are counseling us. These children are rearranging us. You might take them on a journey and they just in turn ask to go somewhere else. Ask you to come inward. So as Rivera said, don't blink. Please close your eyes down for the moment. Because every blink creates 1,000 thoughts, and the science reminds us we need strategy. We offer a plan, yet can be spontaneous and not rigid. We can surrender to our grace, and we don't bring the conversation of war anymore as an example. We bring peace as our evolution. So our leadership can come and be purposeful in what we're accomplishing. My name is Karuna. I was given this name on the banks of the Ganga, and it means compassion. And so we walk together in health and wellness through the Founding Mothers movement. And Chief Phil gave us so many new names today. The women, the divine. We come together, dear sisters and brothers, and we bow to one another, to the knowledge, the wisdom, and the grace you all have delivered today. And did you feel how we came in a little heavy and it got lighter and lighter? That's the same way on the trails. We'll turn around many times and go back to what's cozy. But let us keep walking the red road. Oh, Tokashala Wakantanka, dear Great Spirit, thank you for the blessings of this day. Thank you for this health and wellness. And this wood snake, my totem in the peace room, is the snake. So let us shed her last skins and welcome the fire horse in. And ride her with stamina and grace and lift her into a place where we offer the space for the children to be heard, the young men and women to be seen and listened to, and involve and invite everyone. The neighborhood is welcome here. Don't forget, when you feel left out, to remember there is the Great Spirit, Wakantanka, to the east, to the south, to the west, and to the north. And we hold that light we spoke of, that star, and all the constellations, and all the planets come together, dear ones. So thank you, Riviera-san. Really, what you've brought, and Chief Phil, what you've generously brought to this circle today, to this Congress. And each one of us are a part of this. So thank you all. And blessings to you all, and stay in great health, because we need you to be well, so you can be imaginative and you can open up and then really support the movement. Thank you all. We can close now. Thank you.
The year is 2030, and the Founding Mothers movement has successfully shifted the paradigm. We have achieved a great victory. We have fully empowered women around the world, and we have stopped an evil that no people before us were able to prevent. We have ended war. Women now have universal gender equity. Women have bodily autonomy and reproductive choice. Laws are in place to prevent child marriage. Cultures forbid family violence and genital mutilation. And relationships between women and men enter a field of understanding and compassion. For the first time in human history, our precious planet is at peace. The military-industrial complex is now a peacekeeping force, and men no longer are asked to kill their brothers. As a result, there is ample money available for healthcare, daycare, and elder care. Schools are being built around the world to educate all girls. Projects abound and are fully funded to provide novel green infrastructure and protect the commons. Artificial intelligence is properly monitored and employed for benevolent projects that enhance life on Earth. Now Mother Earth can regenerate. Animal, plant, and ocean life are revived and add to the euphoria of this new golden age. All my relations, one of the original instructions, is a lesson taught in every school, along with mindfulness. There now exists a universal inner knowing that together we can accomplish anything. Planetary governance has reached a new level of inclusion, collaboration, and coordination. The nation-state system yields to regional and local models of self-organization. Intentional communities and cottage industries abound, creating self-sufficient economies. Globalization now means that we are one species with one shared destiny. Personal freedom is intertwined with responsibility, which we gladly share as members of one human family. The news story is told far and wide. Our children know it by heart. Songs are written in its honor. Truth, love, and light reign on earth. As above, so below. Join the Founding Mothers movement and help transform the world.